I started asking questions about God and death at the age of 4. At that time, I couldn't begin to come close to understanding that life was finite. If anything, it just felt like this distant concept, a mystery, like a problem for the adults to figure out. As a kid, life felt like this thing that goes on forever. It was in my 20s that the future no longer felt so far away. It was coming up fast, and the finity of life was no longer an intangible concept for adults to figure out. I was now the adult, and though I've learned to solve a lot of problems throughout my life, immortality isn't exactly one that I have on my plate. And isn't that, after all, what makes life so precious? The fact that every decision that we make has consequences, like how friendships quickly fade if we don't put effort into them, and our relationships don't work out if we treat it like a fairy tale. How our body isn't going to just do its thing to keep us healthy, and how our career won't just flourish just because we think we are a great asset and everyone should simply realize it. Yeah, you're an adult now, even if I sometimes feel like a kid with a mortgage. Even if time and age sometimes feels like this external thing happening around me, not actually to me. Friendship. As time goes on, I know not to judge the strength and depth of my relationships by the good times alone. It's easy to bloom when the sun is shining, but do we continue to bloom when it rains? Are we that rare flower that's somehow grown and survived where it seems like most have not? If you're able to solve problems together, respect one another even when emotions run high, and find quality time to be a pleasure rather than a burden, you've got some solid ground. And also, if you like each other, I say that because I've seen a lot of relationships, platonic and otherwise, where people seem to love each other, sure, perhaps, but they don't seem to actually like each other very much. I've become more interested in knowing, do you like me? As in me, as a person, with all my thoughts and hobbies and strange habits, rather than do you love me? I would like to share a few quotes that I found and liked this year. The days are long, but the years are short. I read that somewhere, it was going around on social media, and it's quite relevant to what I was talking about earlier. And this next one I think is good. I read that it's a Chinese proverb. The faintest ink is more powerful than the strongest memory. It reminds me of the immense gratitude I feel for myself because I've been documenting my life in writing for the majority of it. And it reminds me how often we forget things and how we sometimes remember things incorrectly. I'll sometimes look back at past journal entries where I've documented an experience shortly after it happened, only to realize that my memory of that experience is different than how it actually played out. Our memory is fragile, and this is because we are constantly reconsolidating our memories, which makes them frail and unreliable. It's called reconsolidation. I continue to keep a record of my life through these videos, through my journals, through photographs, and I advise you to do the same, to cherish yourself, your life, and your memories. Now, while writing has its perks, so does talking, like talking to a therapist at BetterHelp, who is kindly sponsoring us today. I think for most people, perhaps everyone, honestly, what we fundamentally want in life is community. We want a sense of belonging. We want to be able to relate to people and have people relate to us. And it feels good to support people we care about and have them support us too. Now, while I'm someone who is quite open and outspoken with the people close to me, and I am incredibly grateful for all the times that they have listened to me talk about the same problem over and over again, I have found value in therapy. Sometimes you just want or need a professional, someone who doesn't know you or knows anything about your life, to help you sort out your thoughts. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy accessible, and this is important because finding the right therapist can be hard. They make finding a therapist easy because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a therapist in as little as a few days. To sign up and get matched with a therapist, you can use the link in my description box or go to betterhelp.com/Lana. Clicking that link helps support this channel, and it also gets you 10% off your first month at BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And if for some reason you feel like the therapist that you were matched with was not a good match, you can easily switch to a different therapist. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in my description box or go to betterhelp.com/Lana. Thank you again so much to BetterHelp for supporting this channel. I like this quote from BoJack Horseman. It gets easier. Every day, it gets a little easier, but you gotta do it every day, and that's the hard part. Now, time does not heal in that things go back to the way that they were. They never will. But time does make the unbearable more bearable, and the heavy thoughts less frequent, but only if you want it to, and only if you show up. You don't always know things are great when things are great. We often, unfortunately, have this tendency to feel nostalgic about the past or excited or nervous about the future, but rarely do we appreciate the now. And by the way, I learned this yesterday, that the term nostalgia, which comes from the Greek nostos, meaning return, and algos, meaning pain, was first coined in 1688, and it was referred to as a disorder. I just thought that was an interesting fact that I wanted to share. Speaking of nostalgia and going home, can I tell you something? Life rarely goes as planned. I think when you're younger, you actually believe that you can plan your life events year by year, because you sort of do in the first 20-something years of your life. Not everyone, of course, but school is mapped out for you. College is mapped out for many of us, and our first job might even be. But even during that time, you might get a no when you thought you would get a yes. You might completely lose interest in the thing that you thought was your calling. You might realize that you can't actually afford to move away from your hometown at 20. Now, when I say life rarely goes as planned, I don't mean that it typically goes better or worse. It could be neither, it could be both. I think we've all had things go in both directions. But I just think it's important to remember that this is part of the life experience of everyone's existence. The fact that so much in life just happens to be out of our control. We are really just winging it day by day. And while I believe that we should do everything that we can to steer this boat of life in the direction that we wish for it to go, at the end of the day, the direction of the wind will have the final say.